would be in one little hotel room or in Hamburg, you know. So there was never any question of that, but it was just something that was on John's mind, that maybe he should be open to all kinds of experience.
Yeah, because there also has been speculation about John's sexual relationship with Beatles manager Brian Epstein for a long time, but you say there's nothing gay about John Lennon, and even he was not bisexual, but it was his openness.
There was not, you know, it was not something he would rule out. You know, he, particularly later on when he knew Elton John, who was very camp and around a lot of other camp men, they gave John a woman's name because they all called each other by name, you know, silly women's names, and they called John Catherine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, anyway, Paul McCartney has been said being furious about these gay allegations, but we must...
it wasn't really an allegation about him. It was just that it crossed John's mind that maybe having an affair with some other young man around would be part of his experience, but there was no question that Paul McCartney would take part. He was totally heterosexual.
Yeah, but is Paul McCartney now a little bit angry because this all came out, or does he blame the press for that?
No, I don't think so. There was a statement that Paul and Yoko are furious, but Paul and Yoko never agree on anything.
Oh, I see. For your book, you talked about some notable figures in Lennon's life: George Martin, Paul McCartney, and notably Yoko Ono. Why would she talk to you about private things?
Yoko is very like John, that if you talk to her, she tells you things. You know, John did that as well. I've written about John a lot over the years. I was first invited to the Dakota building where they lived together, where Yoko still lives, only 5 months after John's death in 1980. It was early 81 by the time I went. And I felt that Yoko trusted me, and I always wrote about John in the way that she approved of. And the way she talked about him was not a sort of starry-eyed kind of way. It was very knowing. It was, oh, you'll never guess what he did, you know, that kind of thing, but loving, but, you know, a bit exasperated too sometimes.
Yeah.
And she did talk to me for many hours in New York and sometimes in London, because I had known her over the years and been to interview her for newspapers on, you know, crucial occasions, like the time the Beatles anthology came out in the 1990s. So she really did tell me all about their relationship in very great detail.
What detail is very interesting to share with us today? What she told you?
Just how very close they were. They lived together, totally with each other, for years and years and years. Then they split up and had a year apart, and then they went back to being that close together. A curious way that Yoko was like John. Her sense of the ridiculous, although she was Japanese and came from a totally different culture and different family background, everything. They hit it off completely because they got each other. They got what the other was saying. John's insecurity was a big surprise. You think that someone who can make music of genius would not be insecure, but of course insecure people are often very talented and vice versa.
Yeah.
And his jealousy too. She had told me that the mythology is that John, when he went to the men's room at Abbey Road Studios, Yoko followed him into the men's lavatory because she was so determined to get him for herself.
Oh, really?
But Yoko says John was afraid that if Yoko stayed out in the studio with other men, one of them would go off with her. So he wanted to be sure that he had his eye on her even when he went to the lavatory. So that was why Yoko went to the men's room in Abbey Road Studios.
Yeah, was it all new information to you, or did you know about that?
Lots of it. I mean, very small detail of their relationship. You know, what they would talk about. Yoko, you won't think Yoko's an insecure person, but she was actually insecure about her appearance. In the 1960s, she didn't like what they used to call them dolly birds. Yoko didn't look like a dolly bird. She was quite severe looking, and she wore very shapeless black clothes, and because she was a bit self-conscious about her looks, and she said John told her to have confidence in her looks, you know, so he helped her confidence. Of course, Yoko helped John's confidence. Yoko was what John thought of as a real artist. John wanted to be a real, in, you know, quotation, real artist.
Yeah. Does Yoko Ono approve of the book now? Or
I don't know if she approved
against it.
She did. The only sort of stipulation in the agreement we have is that she would read the manuscript for factual accuracy. She did read it, and she said she couldn't endorse it because she thought that I'd been mean to John. Well, this was a total astonishment to me, because a lot of things I'd written, she had told me herself. None of it was all written, as the reviews in Britain say, with a great affection and respect for John. But
do you mind that she's saying that?
Yes, I did mind it, because she told me herself, and I felt that I'd done John justice. This is not a book in any way like the Albert Goldman book. This is a book that loves John, but still recognises he was a flawed and complicated person.
Yeah.
She said I'd been mean to John. I hope that no one, certainly think no other reader will think that, and I hope that she'll change her mind. I hope she will. I think she will.
You are the writer of Shout, one of the most accomplished books about the Beatles. You wrote about Buddy Holly, you wrote about Elton John. As you said, you are a big name when it comes to rock writing. Do you feel that this commotion that your book has caused affected your credibility as a writer?
No, I mean, my books before have come out with surprising things, but there's no point to me in writing a book about a rock musician or a band if you hate them. You know, and I loved Buddy Holly, I loved the Beatles, I didn't love the Rolling Stones, but I had tremendous admiration for what they did. And I'm simply not writing to find a sensational headline. It is to make people understand about these extraordinary performers and the times that they live through and they ultimately shape. So what I'm really trying to write is contemporary history, which has music in it. I'm not writing about music, I'm writing about extraordinary people who make music.
And that's why we all have to read John Lennon, The Life by Philip Norman. Thank you very much for being here in the studio.
Thank you.